Okay, so we're talking with my Aunt Ruth Turner Samashko O'Brien, who is now 92 years old, of Franklin, North Carolina. This is a woman I love dearly. So I have a few questions for you. Now, I did an interview with Aunt Frances, who told me about growing up back in the 20s and what a good time you all had on the farm. But one thing she mentioned was that you all had a 3-holer outhouse. Now, what was that one about? Why 3 holes?
Well, we lived in our great-grandfather's old home, but our grandfather inherited it from him, and he had 12 children. 9 of them were boys, and 3 were girls. So they needed a 3-holer, and the holes were different sizes, so your little ones didn't fall through.
Okay, now your family goes back pretty far. You want to tell me about family history?
Well, on the Howell side, we go back to 1634.
Wow.
That came into Virginia, the Isle of Wight.
From where?
They were, I believe they were Welch.
Okay. And continuing up the line then?
Yeah, well, others came in at different times. We're not sure exactly when the first Turner came, because our 6th great-grandfather, Turner, came in from Virginia, and we don't know which of his ancestors had come into Virginia first. But he came into North Carolina in the 1790s.
And did they all settle up in the mountains in Western Carolina?
Well, yeah, the ones that came, the Turners that came into North Carolina did.
So now, how many generations do you count? Have you ever counted the generations?
Well, we go back 11.
11 generations on the Turners.
Yeah.
From the Turners on back.
Well, I think that, I'm not sure. I'd have to count to the Howells.
Okay. Now, what do you remember as growing up in Waynesville as a little girl and growing up?
Well, we had a very carefree childhood. Frances and I kind of roamed the mountains as we wanted to, because all the property around us was owned by relatives, and we just went anywhere we wanted to go. And we had no fear in those days. And as I say, we just had a very carefree childhood.
What was living like back then?
Well, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, I asked Aunt Frances, she said they were pretty happy, but there was no electricity, no telephones.
Oh, no, heavens no. We didn't have electricity until the TVA came in here during the Roosevelt administration.
How'd you do during the Depression?
Well, living on a farm, we were never hungry. But of course, we didn't have many clothes, but we were never bare.
Well, now, does that include the flour sacks with the fancy designs on them?
No, we never went to that.
How about growing up in your teen years and going in high school and going off to college?
Well, I graduated from high school when I was 15. Well, I was 16 about a month later, and went on to college then.
Why so young? I mean, you were smart, I guess, but...
Well, I started to school when I was 5 years old.
Okay.
Because I was the baby of the family, and I always had a playmate, and so when Frances finally had gone to school, I didn't like being home by myself, so I had begged and begged and begged the principal of the school to let me start first grade. And he was dating Mama's first cousin. So every time they'd come by the house, I'd beg him some more. And finally he said, well, if you won't cry, I'll let you come. And I didn't cry, believe me, because I wanted to go to school.
How about when you got to college? What was that like?
Well, it's certainly different from that it is today. We had lights out at 11 o'clock. You had only certain nights you could even go out. And you had to sign in and sign out so they'd know where you were at all times. Well, of course, I went to a woman's college.
Somebody said there was a dress code there?
No, not at woman's college.
Okay.
Now, Frances, where she went in Greensboro College, there was. But the Greensboro College was a Methodist school. And I was at the university. But they were both in Greensboro.
Now, when did you meet my Uncle Nick?
During World War II.
Okay, and what happened? What happened? How'd you meet him and what happened?
Well, the boys from Fort Bragg used to come over to Greensboro on weekends so they could date. And Uncle Nick was dating another girl. And I was dating another boy from Burlington. But I had met him because of my roommate. Well, one weekend, the girl Uncle Nick was dating had to leave campus because her true boyfriend had come home from the Army for a weekend leave. And so they couldn't get word to Nick at Fort Bragg, so he had come on with Dick, whom my roommate was dating. And when he got, she had begged me to date him, and because I had a paper due that weekend, that Monday, and I said, I can't, Ruby, I absolutely cannot. And she had said, well, all right, you'll be wanting me to do something to you one day, just forget it. And so I said, all right, I'll date him. And he wasn't any happier than I was, because he was expecting to date Helen. And so we were nice to each other that first date, got along fine, but I'd promised to date him for the weekend. So the next day we all went out for a picnic, and we had a wonderful time. And then we started writing, and from there it went. So he kept coming every week, well, every weekend.
So, do you get married before he shipped overseas?
Oh yeah.
Back in Western Carolina, or?
No, his leave time didn't give us much time, so I went to Texas, and we married in Texas, where he was stationed.
Okay, he was the second lieutenant back then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, after the war, what happened? You went over to, he was
in military government, and I went over to Germany to be with him.
So he was the military governor of where?
He was military governor of the county of Esslingen. It's called Kreis Esslingen. Kreis, of course, is county.
That's in Bavaria, or
no? Where? He was in what they call Baden-Württemberg now. When we were there, they called it Württemberg-Baden, but they call it Baden-Württemberg now. And then I was there 4 years in Esslingen, and then he was transferred to Heilbronn for 2 years. But that was still in Württemberg-Baden.
You ever rub up against the Russians over there?
No.
I remember a tale about him having a having a 45 in his desk drawer, meeting with one of the Russians.
Well,
or something.
the Russians came to see him, and no. Otherwise, we didn't have any dealings with him. Yes, he pulled his gun out. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but he let the Russian know that he knew that the Russian understood it. At first, the Russian had acted as if he did not understand English, And I don't know exactly what the conversation was, but Nick realized he was. He did understand. And Nick pulled his gun on him. And he calmed down.
All right, I'm going to ask you the same final question I asked Aunt Frances. What do you tell people, what's the best way to reach 92?
Just keep breathing.
Well, you're doing pretty good at it. Love you dearly.
I love you too.
Okay, thank you, dear.
Well, we'll see how this turns out.